They may look like the dirtiest coins you've ever seen, but hiding beneath that dull surface could be a fortune waiting to be discovered. We're diving deep into the gritty world of America's most mysterious one-cent errors, coins that collectors once ignored, but now hunt like buried treasure. From a shadowy 1973 Lincoln penny that defies expectations, to the infamous 1989 D with its strange metallic sheen, and the puzzling 1991 cent that changed everything for error collectors, each of these so-called dirty pennies holds a shocking backstory and rising value. These aren't just cents, they're secrets in copper. Let's start today's episode from the 1973 Lincoln Dirty Penny. In the late 1970s, the United States Mint was pushing through a complex era marked by inflation, rising metal costs, and increasing coin production demands. 1979, in particular, stood at the intersection of tradition and transition. The Lincoln 1-cent coin, unchanged in design since 1959, remained a symbol of consistency during economic turbulence. Struck in copper, this penny had long been a workhorse of American commerce, and the Mint's facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco worked tirelessly to meet the demands of circulation. But in the cluttered rhythm of mass production, not every coin left the press's unblemished. One specific penny that emerged from this frenzy appeared, at first glance, utterly ordinary. But closer inspection would change everything. Not for its shine, but for its lack of it. The coin carried a peculiar surface, a dull, grimy texture that collectors would later dub the dirty penny. Initially dismissed as merely soiled from years of circulation, this particular 1979 cent possessed a mint error that was far more consequential than any dirt or tarnish. For a seasoned numismatist named Carl Whitaker, the coin's odd appearance was a mystery that demanded attention. At a coin show in Cincinnati in the early 2000s, Carl sifted through a bin marked Common Lincolns when he noticed one with an unusual surface. Unlike typical wear from age or usage, the coin's finish appeared embedded within the metal itself. A dark, almost greasy sheen covered Lincoln's profile, distorting the clarity of the design. The rim was uneven, and tiny metallic specks glinted beneath the surface grime. Intrigued, Carl purchased it for a mere 5 cents, unaware that the true nature of the error would send ripples through the collecting community. When Carl examined the coin under a microscope, his suspicions deepened. It wasn't just dirt. The composition seemed corrupted. He consulted metallurgists and fellow collectors, eventually concluding that the coin had been struck on an improperly prepared planchet, possibly contaminated with industrial lubricant or bearing metal shavings from a previous batch. This anomaly had created a coin that appeared filthy but was, in fact, born with its unusual appearance. The U.S. Mint, though meticulous, was not immune to such rare mishaps, especially during peak production years when quality control was strained. Word spread gradually. Carl published a short piece in a niche coin journal, highlighting the 1979 dirty penny as a potential mint error rather than a damaged specimen. Skepticism abounded. Many dismissed it as environmental damage. But as more examples surfaced, each bearing the same greasy luster and embedded specks, the tide began to turn. Collectors started searching rolls from 1979, hoping to uncover similar oddities. By 2009, the numismatic world had enough examples to recognize a distinct, verifiable error type. Initially, prices were modest. A few dollars here, maybe $20 there. But as coin forums and social media amplified the rarity and consistency of the error, demand surged. One particularly well-preserved specimen, with a nearly complete strike and a flawless error pattern, sold for $325 at an auction in 2013. 2 years later, another example fetched over $800, largely because of its unique double error, a dirty planchet combined with an off-center strike. The market began to view these coins not just as mint errors, but as accidental art, forged through chaos and oversight. By 2020, with coin collecting seeing a resurgence, the 1979 dirty penny had taken on a near-mythical status. Beginners hunted them in penny rolls from banks, while seasoned collectors scoured estate sales and old collections. Prices continued to rise, with high-grade examples consistently pulling in 4 figures. The value fluctuated with condition and clarity of the error, But the story behind the coin became just as valuable as the coin itself. What started as a grimy cent now commanded a kind of reverence. The coin's appearance remained its most defining trait. The surface bore a patchy, metallic residue that was almost impossible to replicate post-mint. Unlike coins that were damaged by fire, water, or chemicals after circulation, the dirty penny's features were consistent in certain batches, pointing to a single episode or series of events within the mint's production cycle. Experts hypothesized that during a maintenance phase, some planchets had been contaminated with residual oils or metallic fragments. These were not cleaned properly before striking, creating the murky, almost shadowed relief seen on Lincoln's face and the reverse design. But there was one unexpected twist that turned heads even years after Carl's discovery. In 2021, a collector named Alicia Tran stumbled upon a dirty penny unlike any other. The grime was present, yes, but something else lurked beneath it. Upon careful cleaning under professional supervision, a faint outline emerged under the dirt, a partial brockage. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin remains in the die and leaves its mirror image on the next planchet. This dirty penny had both a planchet contamination and a partial brockage, two errors in one. It was authenticated by PSGS and graded MS63 with an error combo designation. At auction, it sold for $5,200. This twist elevated the 1979 dirty penny from obscure curiosity to legendary status. Collectors who once dismissed the error as surface grime now reevaluated their collections. Forums buzzed with speculation. How many more dirty pennies carried hidden second errors? How many were tossed aside over the years, their secrets never revealed? Today, the dirty penny represents more than a flaw. It's a symbol of persistence, curiosity, and a strange beauty that emerges from imperfection. While not every 1979 cent is valuable, those that carry this unique error, with the embedded residue, altered texture, and in rare cases, compound mistakes, can command prices ranging from $180 to several $1,000s, depending on grade and additional anomalies. As the years go by, fewer of these coins remain in circulation, and most are now in the hands of passionate collectors. But every once in a while someone, somewhere, opens an old jar or sorts through pocket change, and there it is, a dull, greasy-looking cent from 1979. Dismissed by many, treasured by few. And perhaps, just perhaps, worth far more than anyone ever imagined. By the late 1980s, the U.S. Mint had long been accustomed to the copper-plated zinc composition for the Lincoln cent, a change introduced in 1982 that significantly altered the way these coins aged and wore over time. In 1989, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln 1-cent coins, continuing the legacy of a denomination that had become one of the most recognizable in circulation. The year itself was relatively uneventful in minting terms, without any major design overhauls or announced modifications. Yet beneath this ordinary appearance lay a hidden blemish, one that wouldn't fully reveal itself until years later, a production misstep that led to a peculiar breed of cent, later dubbed the dirty penny, by those who came to understand its strange qualities. As with many minting anomalies, the error didn't make itself known immediately. At first glance, the coins looked merely tarnished or exposed to the elements. They bore darkened surfaces, inconsistent texture, and a grainy, almost filmy appearance that made them look unclean or handled with grease-stained fingers. These were not immediately recognized as mint errors. Rather, they were considered the unwanted leftovers of pocket change. Most were tossed in jars, spent without notice, or abandoned in drawers, forgotten and dismissed. Among those many overlooked cents was one that found its way into a coin roll purchased in 2004 by a Midwestern hobbyist named Jared Phillips. Jared, a schoolteacher with a fascination for coin history, had started collecting as a child and continued the habit as a quiet passion into adulthood. That evening, while sifting through a $25 box of pennies from a local bank, he found something that disrupted his usual flow. A 1989 penny with a strangely matte finish, its color more muted than the rest, and its surface appearing cloudy as if stained by chemicals. At first, he assumed environmental damage. Many older coins spent decades in circulation, subjected to sweat, rain, and even detergents. Yet this particular coin bore no signs of pitting or corroded metal typical of such damage. The filmy overlay appeared uniform, almost as though it had been struck into the coin itself. The reliefs, Lincoln's profile, the date, and the Denver mint mark all remained sharply defined beneath the sheen, undisturbed and crisp. Jared placed it under his 10x loop. That's when he noticed something odd. Microscopic flecks of metal, dull and misshapen, clung to the coin's surface, embedded within the finish, not resting on it. This was not mere contamination from circulation. Whatever had tainted this coin had done so before it ever left the mint. He placed the coin aside, but couldn't shake the curiosity. Over the following weeks, he scoured forums, cross-referenced coin guides, and reached out to fellow collectors. He discovered that others had found similar 1989 pennies. Some featured the same ghostly surface, others bore an oily appearance or a slick shine inconsistent with normal wear. A pattern began to emerge. These weren't isolated occurrences. Encouraged by the growing consensus, Jared submitted his find to a third-party grading service. The results confirmed what he suspected. It was a genuine mint error, caused by a contaminated planchet or chemical residue present during the striking process. The classification was careful and precise: mint error, contaminated planchet. But it was the note in the grader's comments that struck him the most. Surface discoloration likely due to lubricant or industrial debris during the annealing process. Uncommon. Collectible. At first, the market response was muted. Jared's coin fetched just $75 at auction. But as more examples surfaced and collectors began to appreciate the error's visual uniqueness and mint-confirmed origins, the value began to rise. By 2010, high-grade examples of the 1989 dirty penny were selling for over $200. A few years later, a particularly bright error coin with only minimal surface contact sold for $490 at an online numismatic auction. It became clear that the error was not only authentic, but increasingly sought after. Collectors were drawn to the mystery. The dirt wasn't actual grime, but evidence of a breach in minting standards, possibly from poorly cleaned machinery or an improperly handled batch of planchets. In a world where perfection is expected, these coins wore their flaws with distinction. They were the outcasts turned collectibles. Then, in 2016, the narrative took a dramatic turn. A collector in California named Emily Rhodes discovered a 1989 cent that, at first glance, bore the same traits as Jared's find: cloudy texture, darkened metal, and embedded specks. But upon closer examination, she noticed something extraordinary. There was a faint doubling on the word, Liberty, and a shadow image of Lincoln's profile, just barely visible to the right of the actual bust. Emily's coin wasn't just a dirty penny. It was a dirty penny with a double strike, the second strike slightly rotated. The anomaly sparked intense debate among error specialists. It was confirmed by the grading service, labeled a dual-error specimen, and instantly catapulted into rarity. When placed at public auction in 2018, the coin shattered expectations, selling for $5,800. That sale transformed the entire error type. The 1989 dirty penny was no longer a niche collectible. It became a hunted treasure. Collectors began reviewing their old stockpiles, re-examining rolls, and bidding more aggressively when examples surfaced online. Prices climbed steadily. Even moderately circulated examples began crossing the $300 threshold. Uncirculated specimens with strong definition and vivid discoloration were pulling in over $800. Jared, still active in the collecting community, noted the surge with quiet pride. His original discovery had helped spark what had become a national conversation among Lincoln cent enthusiasts. The dirty penny wasn't just about error, it was about hidden value, about the overlooked becoming legendary. To the casual observer, these coins appear unimpressive. Their matte finish gives them a worn-out look, and the discoloration is often interpreted as filth. Yet it's precisely that misunderstood appearance that adds to their allure. Unlike flashy errors, like off-center strikes or broad strikes, the dirty penny hides in plain sight. It teaches patience, observation, and above all, curiosity. What caused the 1989 dirty penny error is still a topic of minor debate. Most experts agree that contaminated planchets or residue in the annealing furnace likely led to the discoloration. Some suggest it was leftover lubricant used during maintenance, which was not properly cleaned off. Others argue that poor ventilation allowed airborne particles to settle on the planchets. Regardless of the root cause, the coins passed inspection and entered circulation, a mistake now worth thousands. The best-known examples often share common features: a darkened or dull red tone, an uneven texture across Lincoln's cheek and jacket, and tiny embedded flecks of foreign metal. Some bear additional errors, like faint doubling or machine damage, which compound their rarity. But even without added anomalies, a classic dirty penny commands attention. As the market for Lincoln cent errors continues to grow, the 1989 dirty penny remains a highly desirable find. Its journey from mint mistake to collector's prize is a testament to the world of numismatics, where the smallest details can yield the greatest stories. It's a coin that embodies the strange beauty of error, an object born in imperfection, later celebrated for it. Today, depending on condition and clarity of the error, a 1989 dirty penny can range from $120 for lightly circulated examples to well over $950 for mint-state specimens with prominent discoloration. Dual-error examples, like Emily Rhodes's record-breaking find, stand apart, with valuations now floating in the $3,000 to $7,000 range, depending on demand. The search continues. Collectors comb through penny rolls with renewed purpose, hunting for the grimy, clouded scent that might hold more than meets the eye. And each new discovery only deepens the legend. Somewhere out there, in jars, drawers, or forgotten bank bags, more dirty pennies await. And with them, untold stories of error, luck, and the thrill of turning 1 cent into a piece of history. In 1991, the United States Mint operated with a refined rhythm, the result of decades of modernization, improved equipment, and increasingly efficient production standards. Yet, amid the structured processes and precision machinery, errors still found a way to slip through. The Lincoln cent, a coin that had long held a place of quiet importance in everyday transactions, continued to be struck by the millions. With the transition in composition from primarily copper to a copper-plated zinc planchet occurring nearly a decade earlier, certain nuances in the new materials presented unique challenges to the minting process. It was during this time, in the steady hum of machinery at one of the mint's facilities, that a small batch of 1991 Lincoln cents bore a mark that would remain unnoticed for years. One such coin made its way into circulation with a look so unremarkable that most hands passed it without a second thought. Its surface looked grimy, darkened, with a dull gleam that suggested damage or corrosion. But this wasn't mere environmental wear. This penny, like a handful of others, had emerged from the mint with a fundamental flaw, an error that would only come to light years later, under the meticulous eye of a curious collector named Thomas Redding. Thomas wasn't a professional numismatist, at least not then. He was a hobbyist, the kind of collector who would spend hours searching through bags of circulated coins from the bank, his magnifying glass always within reach. In 2008, while reviewing a bulk roll of Lincoln cents purchased at a local estate sale, he came across a 1991 cent that stood out, not for its luster, but for the odd filmy texture that coated Lincoln's bust and the coin's reverse. It was grimy, yes, but it wasn't ordinary dirt. The surface was uneven, with subtle discolorations running through the copper-plated zinc in ways that looked embedded, not surface-applied. The lettering on the reverse seemed muddled, as though a veil obscured their edges. Initially dismissing it as damaged postmint, Thomas set it aside. But something about the coin lingered in his thoughts. He revisited it a week later, under higher magnification and bright light. That's when he noticed that the grime followed the contours of the coin exactly, tucked into the recesses and high points alike. Environmental grime wouldn't behave like that. Thomas hypothesized it could be an improperly treated planchet or perhaps some form of industrial contamination during production. He posted a detailed image and a short explanation on a collector's forum. Most responses were skeptical, but a few fellow hobbyists chimed in with pictures of coins that shared nearly identical characteristics. The pattern was forming. These weren't random, individually damaged coins. They were part of a batch. Something had gone wrong at the mint in 1991, and whatever it was, it left behind a residue that had been mistaken for simple dirt. Thomas's original find gained traction. He submitted the coin to a third-party grading service, and the results surprised him. It was certified as a genuine U.S. Mint error, struck on a contaminated planchet. The expert notes confirmed embedded metallic fragments and a chemical sheen consistent with industrial residue. The coin, once deemed a throwaway, was now preserved in a slab, officially recognized as part of a rare anomaly. The sale price of that first coin was modest, around $60 on an online auction platform. But within 2 years, additional examples began surfacing. A collector from Arizona found 2 nearly identical dirty 1991 cents in a roll from a bank vault. Another was discovered in an unopened mint-sealed bag that had been sitting in a retired coin dealer's garage. The increasing number of verified examples solidified the error's place in the world of collectible coins. Its identity as the 1991 dirty penny began to take root. The value began to climb steadily. By 2015, average specimens were fetching between $150 and $300, depending on clarity of the error and overall condition. Particularly well-preserved coins with uncirculated status drew even higher prices, occasionally exceeding $600. But it wasn't just about value anymore. The dirty penny had become something of a conversation piece, a visual reminder that even the most overlooked coins could carry hidden secrets. And then came the twist that would redefine the 1991 dirty penny's place in collecting history. In 2019, an advanced collector named Natalie Green made a startling discovery while cataloging her error coin collection. Among her finds was a dirty penny with an unusually thick rim. It appeared slightly swollen on one edge, almost like it had been pinched. Upon closer inspection, she found a faint shadow of lettering where none should have existed. Natalie's suspicion grew. She submitted the coin for professional analysis. The results were staggering. Not only was the coin a contaminated planchet strike, it also featured traces of a double strike with die rotation. This meant the coin had been struck twice in the press, with the second strike slightly off from the first. This kind of error combined with the dirty planchet was nearly unheard of. It added complexity and rarity, making this particular specimen an outlier among outliers. When the coin hit the auction block, it drew intense interest. Collectors from across the country bid furiously. The final sale price was $4,300, setting a new record for any 1991 Lincoln cent at the time. It wasn't just the dual error that drew attention, it was the coin's story, the layered mishaps, and the sense of discovery that came with peeling back its mysteries. The popularity of the 1991 dirty penny soared. Articles were written. YouTube videos chronicled its rise from junk bin oddity to collectible treasure. Even mainstream media outlets took notice, running segments about pennies worth hundreds that could be hiding in pocket change. The fascination wasn't just numismatic, it was cultural. People loved the idea of hidden value disguised as dirt. To the untrained eye, these coins still look unassuming. A murky surface, dull reliefs, and sometimes a streak of metallic discoloration along the rim. But to collectors, these features are clues, signposts of minting history gone slightly awry. The composition, intended to be consistent, was tainted by either machinery malfunction or overlooked maintenance. What resulted was a moment in mint history, sealed in copper and zinc, passed hand to hand for years before being recognized for what it truly was. Today, the value of a standard 1991 dirty penny varies. Lightly circulated examples with minimal visible error might bring in $100 to $200, while well-preserved versions can range from $350 to over $800. Those with dual or compound errors command significantly more, often crossing into four-figure territory depending on condition and certification. The apex remains Natalie Green's double-struck example, but others have approached its prestige. Collectors now actively seek the 1991 dirty penny not just for its error, but for its story. It's a coin that embodies the idea that treasure can come wrapped in grime. It reminds us that rarity is often misunderstood and that sometimes value lies not in perfection, but in deviation. Each dirty penny carries its own signature. No two are exactly alike. Some show a slick oil-like sheen, others a crusty patchwork of embedded fragments. Some barely hint at the error until placed under magnification, while others wear their mutation like a badge. What began in the mechanical heart of a mint facility has ended up in velvet-lined display cases, auction houses, and online collections cataloged with reverence. The dirty penny speaks to a broader truth within collecting. Every coin has a story, but not every story is noticed. The 1991 Lincoln cent, passed over by millions, is now a symbol of the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. The grime, the discoloration, the slight irregularities, they all whisper of the moment the system slipped just enough to create something worth remembering. In the right light, under the right eyes, the coin reveals its journey. From a mishap at the press to the quiet thrill of its discovery, to the bidding wars it inspires today. And even now, new examples emerge, keeping the legend alive. It's more than just a dirty penny. It's a puzzle, a relic, a little piece of chaos molded into copper and zinc. And for those who know what to look for, it's a story worth far more than 1 cent.